Welcome to another episode in my bread series. Today on the Low Carb Cook, we'll be making a delicious seeded wholemeal loaf, and this is my Breadmaker edition. Bread is always one of the key things that people still want to enjoy on keto, and many have tried to make good clones. This recipe started life in Deirdre's kitchen and was then made really popular by the Keto King, both great channels on YouTube, and I highly recommend subscribing to them. But today I'm going to put my own stamp on this base brown or wholemeal bread recipe by tweaking the ingredients slightly to make it into a bit more of an artisan loaf. We'll be adding a large range of low carb seeds to make this loaf feel and taste like something a bit more special. And while I also have a video showing you how to make a larger version of this bread using a mixer and self-bake method, this video will show you the perfect Breadmaker method for total convenience. So our ingredients for this recipe today, we're going to start with 240 grams of vital wheat gluten. Now that's where this bread gets its natural elasticity from and feels just like normal bread. Then we're going to add 50 grams of oat fibre. We're going to add 90 grams of ground flaxseed. We've got half a teaspoon of xanthan gum, just a pinch of pink Himalayan salt. As always in bread, don't put too much salt in there. Salt will kill the yeast and it will stop the rise. We've got 40 grams of powdered erythritol, 2 eggs, 30 grams of salted softened butter. Then we're going to add for our seeds 10 grams of pumpkin seeds, 10 grams of sunflower seeds. I've got 10 grams of poppy seeds and 7.5 grams of chia seeds. Now for our yeast, I find best results always come from using these foil packets. This is just a supermarket owned brand. I don't know why these work so much better. I've tried the yeast that comes in a pot, but the rise is never as good. So I highly recommend these. They're also great for my pre-pack prepped method, which we'll get into later. To feed the yeast, we're going to use just a teaspoon of honey. Don't worry about this. I know honey is high carb, but this is going to be eaten by the yeast to activate it. So that's really not going to be left in the bread. That's absolutely fine. And finally, we have just 250 milliliters of lukewarm water. That again, just to activate the yeast and bind the whole thing together. So in this edition, we're using one of the most convenient machines you can own when you're living a keto lifestyle and doing much of your own baking, and that is a Breadmaker. I've said it before here on this channel, so many people buy these machines when they're enjoying being the trendy must-have kitchen gadget, but then they quickly fall by the wayside when people realize they can just pop into a supermarket and pick up a great loaf off the shelf cheaper and more easily. But for us, following a low-carb diet, these things make absolute sense when buying pre-made low-carb loaves is often difficult, they're not always as fresh as they should be, and they can be really expensive. So stay tuned for my tip later on how to bring down the cost of making your own at home. You can pick up a machine like this for as little as £25 if you're prepared to hunt around platforms like Facebook Marketplace. Not everything in your kitchen has to be brand new. What I love about these machines is that I can just throw all of the ingredients in there and leave it to make a perfect loaf every time. The only thing you really have to do is weigh out the ingredients properly and add them to the machine in the right order. So our method today, you don't really need to sieve things for this recipe. It's fine to just dump all of these dry ingredients in. So I'm going to start by putting all of my dry ingredients into a larger mixing bowl. There we go. If you were doing the stand mixer version, it is important there to sieve things just to get the big lumps out. But somehow these miracle machines just do it all for you. So there goes my xanthan gum, my pinch of salt. Remember, we always use pink Himalayan salt in our keto cooking. It's much better for our system than traditional white salt. There goes my erythritol. Now I'm going to add in my seeds at this stage. It's worth putting them in early on, getting them well mixed in. My pine nuts and my chia seeds and poppy seeds. Now if I was doing a stand mixer version, I'd actually add some of those to the end so they're nicely sprinkled over the top of the loaf. That's a little harder to do in a Breadmaker, but you can always open it up, sprinkle some in towards the end. Give that a mix through. That's just going to combine those ingredients nicely now before it goes into the machine. Next, I'm going to add into my machine take out the inner paddle. Now these things are amazing. They've just got one tiny little paddle in there that does all the work, makes this entire loaf. This is why I think they're such miracles. Into that, I'm going to add my 1 cup or 250 millilitres of lukewarm water. Just wants to be lukewarm to really activate that yeast, not too hot, otherwise it'll kill it off. Then I'm going to take 2 eggs. No shell, drop those in. I'm going to grab a fork and just lightly beat those eggs. I want those yolks to be broken up and mixed in with the water. There we go. Then I'm going to add into this my dry ingredients. And it's important that the water, the moisture, that stuff goes in first. Then we're going to add our dry ingredients over the top. Now in the top of this, we're making a small well. And into that, we're going to sprinkle our pack of yeast. So we're keeping the water and the yeast separate to start with. And then the machine, as it mixes it, will bring the two together, activate the yeast, and that will start making all that gas that's going to give us our rise. I'm going to add my teaspoon of honey, again, just to feed the yeast. Drizzle that in. There we are. And finally, my 30 grams of butter. I normally eyeball this. I just pick it out with the end of a teaspoon, dot it around, but you're putting this around the outsides of the chamber, and that'll all get perfectly mixed in as it goes. And that is what you should end up with. That then goes back into the machine and just locks into place. That lid goes down, and then it gets really simple. All you have to do is then switch the machine on and set your program. Now, by default, this one is making a 1 kilogram loaf with a medium bake, and that's ideal for this amount of ingredients. So while that works its magic, let me show you how you can really save money and bring back some real convenience to your bread making, whether you're using a machine like this or following one of my stand mixer recipes. The key thing is to buy your ingredients in bulk, and I know these things are not always cheap and bulk buying isn't always an option for people, but I've been able to lower the cost per loaf to around £2.50 by buying enough of each ingredient to make up around 40 loaves at a time. I only make 1 loaf every week or so that's almost a year's worth of loaves. For convenience, I'll spend half a day making up sealed Ziploc bags of the dry ingredients, weighing out each item and adding them to each bag. I then add a foil sachet of yeast into each bag so it's pretty much ready to go. I always have a load of these ready in my cupboard, and I can then quickly toss everything into a machine rather than spending ages finding all the different packets and weighing things out. Hunt around online to bulk buy things. I buy most of my ingredients through sites like buywholefoodsonline.co.uk, realfoodsource.com, and various sellers on Amazon and even eBay. There, I hope that little tip helps you out. Now, while this is baking away in the machine, let's take a quick look at our macros. Welcome back to the Low Carb Cook. Now our seeded wholemeal brown bread clone has been perfectly kneaded and is baking in our Breadmaker and is almost ready to come out. I also cover how to make this recipe and my own white bread mix using a stand mixer and self-bake method in another video on the channel, so please do subscribe and have a look through my uploads to see those. You'll find various bread videos in there that I hope you'll love. And that's our loaf done. Let's pop that out with our oven gloves and see how that looks. That's absolutely wonderful. I'm going to turn this out now and we're going to leave it to cool down for a while before we slice into it. So there we are, all done. Now if you follow my freezer bag prep method, there's no mess at all, and you can also reuse the bags. I like to store my loaf in one of these funky brown paper effect bags. This one has a special foil lining to keep things fresh, and so I can store things in this for up to a week, if it ever lasts that long. A big tip from me is to leave the loaf from 24 hours before slicing it. When they're fresh, hot from the machine like this, they're so soft that they don't cut well, but after 24 hours they'll slice really cleanly and easily, making it far easier to manage your carb counts. This stuff makes awesome sandwiches and my favourite, toast. Though the addition of the oat fibre does mean it burns quickly in the toaster, so it doesn't need long. Mostly though, just a bit of bread and butter. Feels like a real treat again. But enough chatter, let's dive in and see what the structure looks like. There. Look at that, beautiful, with the seeds running through it, looking absolutely magnificent. And just like our white bread, soft, squishy bread that feels and has the texture of normal natural wheat bread. Tell me in the comments below how you get along with yours, and join my Facebook community page to share your pictures. If you ding the notifications bell on YouTube, you'll be told whenever I upload new videos. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you again next time here on The Low Carb Cook. Hey, thanks for watching The Low Carb Cook. If you enjoyed this episode, why not watch one of our playlists or this recommended video? Click on the logo below to subscribe. Join us on any of our social pages, or if you'd like to show a bit more love, you can support the channel on buymeacoffee.com using the link below. For even more great stuff, check out the website, thelowcarbcook.com.